I kind of grew up from California. I grew up in a somewhat of a broken home, and making things, just doodling, drawing, that kind of thing, was sort of an escape, therapeutic. I say that in quotations, but it was kind of like a way of coping.
Yeah.
So from my early education, I had I was not a Christian, and so I had some Christian teachers that had a difficult time affirming my parents' life necessarily, but they like affirmed the creativity in me. So that like planted a seed that the Lord kind of pinned. And then that stayed with me as a little bit of an anchor point. I didn't know who my real father was. There was a lot of father hunger, a lot of kinds of issues. So initially, I saw art as a way of building an identity. It's sort of an idol in a lot of ways. But in that, redemptively, I was learning new things. It kind of kept me somewhat out of trouble, or less out of trouble, and
Yeah.
that just stayed with me. I mean, so for the time I was 5, and it didn't really become serious. Well, it stayed serious, but it didn't become like serious until I went to the University of Sacramento, and I became a Christian after
Wow.
being successful as an artist. So I gained success. The more
Wow.
success I had, the more miserable I was. And that raised the question, like, well, why am I miserable if I'm doing what I've always wanted to do?
Wow. And so how old were you when you went to University of Sacramento?
Well, so I was a college high jumper, and I
Okay.
started in athletics and art
Cool.
together, but became academically ineligible. I was too mature to handle the responsibility of college. Like I didn't really
Sure.
even know why.
Sure.
So I dropped out and went back to school like at 24, 25 years old, actually.
Cool. Yeah, I was trying to piecemeal that. It seemed like you were a little bit beyond the traditional age of
Yes.
college,
Mhm.
which I think is probably a huge portion of why the Maker Institute has been birthed as well. As like there's never a right age, and often
Mhm.
with the way society is set up now, it's when I was younger, it was already being in bed of like after high school you go to college. And so the
Right.
question is always, what college are you going to?
Mhm.
And my husband went to college because it was the thing everyone's supposed to do, dropped out, and he went to vocational school. And
Mhm.
that has literally led his entire career. And so I think there's this gap and there's this understanding, even in other countries, we're the only country that really pushes for that.
Yep.
And it's creating, debt, and it's creating identity crises, and it's creating this party situation of, some of the documentaries that have happened, like Alabama University.
Mhm.
It's bananas to think what's actually happening in these formative years when they actually have an opportunity to discover their purpose, to go out and serve for once, and to actually have these longevity of hours from a communal perspective of how do I show up and help humanity, and what is humanity, and what is this world actually doing. And so I love that your story really aligns to your future. Obviously it always does. Works miracles backwards. But I want to know, in that one space that you were talking about, like the false idolization of being an artist,
Mhm.
whether you're falsely idolizing yourself and your gift, or you're falsely idolizing maybe the culture, or what was that? Because that's so profound from an identity shift that people, I still think, need to take.
Well, so when I think about identity, I think about it as it's that which we put our hopes, like our expectations, our longings, our dreams, that which we think will make us complete, bring us contentment, joy, and so no thing can do that in an enduring or one time only sense, such that you never need it again outside of the work of Christ. So, what happens is you're looking at the wielding of your gifts to bring about your community, a sense of affirmation, a sense of rest and peace, a sense of validation, but also a sense of forward mobility and possibility. And so you're freighting all this pressure on yourself to bring things about that then reinform you as if they didn't come from you. So you make a thing and then you expect it, like a talisman, to tell you something about yourself as if it was, like a painting existing independent of you, but
Yeah,
you
so
made it.
good.
And so it's the distortion of being made in the image of God, turned inward and towards God's creation. And so, yeah, so it creates a very uh, tumultuous environment for creativity, if you will, or makerliness, whatever.